Alrighty, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. It is time for round 9 of the Midwest Formula 1 Division 2 Championship, and we are in for a treat here tonight, folks. It is time for the Singapore Grand Prix under the lights here at what is honestly one of my favorite tracks to both race at and commentate here. Oh my goodness, excuse me, I'm tripping on my words here. I'm so excited. Just jumping into our short qualifying session here. 18 minutes of non-stop qualifying action here to determine who will be starting the race on that coveted pole position here. Now, drivers getting their setup set up and ready to go, getting the final tweaks, and we're seeing now, looking down the pit lane, an AlphaTauri is going to be the lead driver here. Will it be? Yes, it is going to be Puff Digital, just leaving the pit lane here, taking that very tight line. Ooh, nearly crossing the white line there. Qualifying, not the end of the world, but of course you don't want to be doing that during the race, because of course that can lead to some time penalties, oh my goodness, which can affect your outcome at the end of the race. But we'll get to that when we get there, if we do get there. But of course, as Puff Digital taking us on an outlap, let's run through some of the little fun facts here about Singapore. Of course, starting with the obvious one, it is a straight circuit here. So as you can see, you're either on track or in the walls here in Singapore, similar to Baku, similar to Monaco. There we get a nice little onboard angle coming through a very tricky section of the track here, just before the bridge in this very hard left-handed corner. But you can really see how close the walls are and how perfect you're gonna have to be. And I mean, of course, going back to the Singapore track, it's under the lights, really makes it a spectacle to see here. A street circuit under the lights here, in what is normally a very hot climate. Maybe it's not so much here in the game, but of course we gotta stick with the realism when we can get it here with the hot climate. And nearly an abandoned lap there from Puff Digital right before the lap even started. But I mean, you'll notice this here, and my final little fun fact, it's one of the longer circuits in terms of track time here. And I'll take us through a flying lap here with Puff Digital as you start across the line here, go down the fourth gear into turn 1, ride the curb quickly down to second to get that car turned around for turn 2 on the power. Now you don't want to lose the back end on the exit of turn 2. Heading in, you can really extend, ride the curb, just avoid the wall on the outside corner there, through into turn 3, down now Raffles Boulevard, probably where we're going to see most of the overtaking, into a hard braking zone. You can see that's exactly how you want to take this corner, and this is where the challenge really starts. Get on the brakes early for this corner, or else you're going to end up on that outside wall. Better to be early, safe than sorry is what you can say. Making it through that section relatively cleanly, down another short straight here. Maybe not too much overtaken with the lack of DRS, not much room, but through this very difficult section there, heading under the bridge, hard on the brakes, almost a blind braking zone here to take this corner, just avoiding the wall on the right hand side there was Puff Digital through that lap. Down the back straight, might see some attempted moves, but you gotta be safe heading into this very difficult, and it doesn't look overly difficult there, but very challenging left hand corner. Then into sector 3, a couple chicane type corners here, but you can see those walls come very quickly. They come very close, especially this corner right there that we saw Puff Digital go through, nearly clipping the wall on his outlap, and you saw that managed that a little bit better on the flying lap. But it's very easy to lose that. To lose the car. Puff Digital, though, not happy with his lap time, so he's gonna abandon it. He's gonna dive into the pit lane and essentially get a fresh set of tires, get that car refueled, go at it once again. I think not the best of lap there, but you saw sector 3, a couple love taps with the wall, which I'm sure we'll see a lot of drivers do here in qualifying and the race. But of course, part of this circuit is really just mastering the circuit, mastering this Grand Prix. As let's get the actual tire choice on, with the detail right now on the screen in the Mercedes. Putting on the medium tires here, looking to go maybe a little bit longer here in the race if he can get this lap time done quick enough. Right now, Saffron City, a 138.666 was the fastest lap time, but Nicky64, he came to race here in Div 2 with a 137.884. So you can see here with the lap times right around the 137s to 140s here, a little bit of a longer lap time, and just like that, if you notice, we've got less than 13 minutes to go in this short qualifying session with only 3 lap times on the board. I mean, of course, more to come, as it looks like we've got a couple more drivers about to cross the line, and it looks like one of them was just starting a flying lap. It looked like that might have been one of the Alpha Tauri's, Tiger NASCAR, a 137.1. There goes detail on your screen, a 139.292, as my eyes were deceiving me there. Good enough for P5, but Tiger NASCAR in the Red Bull, 137.1 in on those medium tires, so on the slightly slower compound, but slightly more durable compound, still inching out that maximum amount of performance to snag that provisional pole position and essentially invite other drivers to essentially go up and challenge them for that pole. Fuzel came close, but that's not going to help him at all here, as on his what could have been a second lap or an in-lap, hitting the wall. And I was talking about the exit of turn 2, and I think for Fuzel, that's exactly what happened. Just on the exit of turn 2, quickly on the power, just a little too quick there, and that front wing into the wall, and that front wing is gone off that car, and that's going to be a long ways to the pit stop here. But I was saying, Tiger NASCAR inviting other drivers to come at him, and Dace TG2, he takes acceptance and sets a very fast 136.4 for the Williams team on those soft tires. Now I'm gonna go to the other Williams driver here, currently in the pits right now. But I got a little bit of a hot take here from Niru Nix from that Williams garage. He was telling me to keep an eye out for a Williams 1-2 here at the end of the race in Singapore. So Niru Nix, you've been I'll be honest, you've been called out a little bit here on the stream, and honestly, I'm open to see the 1-2 there. Not to show any bias, it's just I love when these types of predictions can come to fruition. But I mean, Dace TG2, at least in qualifying, putting up his end of the bargain here with that provisional pole position. Albeit still 10 minutes to go, loads of time for drivers to challenge and attack that. Scuttlebutt Hole setting a 138.6, good enough for P12, just outside of the top 10, but really not a bad lap, given that it is the first lap on the board here for the Red Bull drivers. So time to improve, but you've got the first one out of the way, and that's always the most challenging lap. Once you've got that first lap or two out of the way, then you get into the groove, then you've essentially got the feel of the track a little bit more, and that's when you can start pushing. When you've got the feel for the setup, you've got the feel for the track, and I think that's what we're going to see from a lot of drivers. Now I noticed V-Shoots Gween actually on 2-lap old soft tires, setting almost a fastest lap time. It's a second driver to break into the sub 137s. He set a 136.7, good enough for P2, but Dace still hanging on to that provisional pole, as we're watching Puff Digital right now in the AlphaTauri going for a second lap time, looking to be much better this time around than what the previous lap was, as he's heading down toward that blind braking zone into the hard left-hander. That's just so difficult to get the F1 car around. You'd think these cars are nimble and loose, but through those slow corners, it almost feels like you're trying to turn a bus sometimes. But you can see Puff Digital showing that off with ease, and he gets a purple sector 2 for his troubles here. Meanwhile, Houdini also on a flying lap right now, coming through that same section we just saw, but looks to be approaching a little bit of traffic here as the Ferrari driver. The slipstream might help him a little bit heading down this back straight here into the braking zone, but we'll see if the dirty air is going to affect him. No, it won't, as the Aston Martin, excuse me, is getting out of the way, and oh my goodness, the streak continues for myself, as I Every week it seems at least once I'm going to refer to the Aston Martin as the Alpha something, so bear with me with that, ladies and gentlemen. It'll click hopefully before the end of this game cycle, but we'll see. VTech meanwhile in the Ferrari, that wonderful red looking Ferrari, 16th fastest. Houdini right behind, 17th fastest. So the Ferrari drivers looking to be a little off the pace here in Singapore in these early-ish stages of qualifying on their first laps. Lapping to the low to mid 139s, so they're almost going to have to knock off maybe a second or two off of their lap times here if they want any chance to see a top 10 showing. Monkey Mafia, meanwhile, or the Monkey Mafia, diving into the pits after his 138.3. That was, looked to be an Alpine of Unholy Red Eye. Crossing the line, looks to be appearing to start a flying lap right now, his second one, looking to improve on the 137.7 that he's got on the board so far. Puff Digital actually going 4th fastest now that he's got a time on the board, so you can see he's definitely here to race in Singapore. Got that first one out of the way, those first lap jitters, and now finding the groove, finding the zone. Looks to be pushing now as well, at least a little bit on that lap, but I actually am mistaken as he's diving into the pits here. Now I'm noticing Nero Nix just jumping into the session, so it's worrying me a little bit that maybe he's got some connection issues here this week. Not ideal, all considered here, but hopefully that can get resolved, and Nero Nix can hopefully get on track and get a lap time set, because we're down to just he and himself and Kaz as the last two remaining drivers who have yet to set a lap time here. And with 6 minutes and 15 seconds to go in this short qualifying session, time is starting to tick down, time is starting to run out to get those lap times set. Meanwhile, here comes Fuzel down to P6 now as he's looking to improve on his lap time. And I'm seeing the two front runners are starting their lap times. Dace going faster in Sector 1 by about 1/10 of a second. Let's see what Vishut's Gween is going to do here. That's the Ferrari getting out of the way, not looking to give any support to his rival in the Mercedes, and he knocks off about a 1/10 of a second. So it's going to be close here between these two drivers as their lap times do continue onward. SZ Smith, though, meanwhile, jumps all the way up to P3. It's a 137.172, so just quicker than the 137. Fuzel, meanwhile, crossing the line. We were checking him out earlier. He breaks into the sub 137s himself, brings that Alfa Romeo up to P3. It's a 136.7 for his most recent lap time, and that puts him in a great position. But I'm keeping an eye out on these two front runners. First, it's going to be Dace. TG2 is going to be the next driver to cross the line here with a little under 5 minutes to go in this session. Coming around the final corner, taking it picture perfect there, and it's a 135.8 for Dace TG2. And that's a fantastic lap time, really giving himself a 1 second gap. But of course, with Vishut's Gween coming around the final corner, not the optimal line through the final corner, but it's still going to be faster as it's a 136.2. So a very good lap time, securing that front row position here, but not quite quick enough to overtake the time set by Dace. And similar to what I was mentioning with Tiger NASCAR a little bit early on in the session, Dace TG2 sending an invitation to the drivers on the field. Come at me. Come and see if you can set a lap time quicker than the 135.8 I've got on the board. Vishut's Gween trying, he came close. Fuzel might be going forward here as he's coming through Sector 3, but does not appear to be using much ERS with about 90% in the tank. I think he's going to be on an in-lap right now. Might just get one last quick switch of tires. But let's go back to the second Williams here of Nero Nix, looking to get a lap time set here as he's coming through turn 3. Still very early on, early stages here on his lap time as he's just coming down Raffles Boulevard. the long straight where we're going to see overtaken here. But we'll stick with the Williams driver. We'll jump on board with him, actually. Give Nix a little bit of love here for his first lap time, as we can get a good opportunity to watch another full lap here of the Singapore circuit. And meanwhile, I noticed the Ferrari of VTEC is actually out of qualifying right now. I'm not too sure if that was actually an accident on track, or if that was just an early retirement in the pit lane. I'm looking here, and it looks like it quite very well could be an early retirement in the pit lane. VTEC maybe getting that one lap time set, choosing that he wants to start from the back of the grid, maybe avoid some of the chaos that we can see into lap 1, turn 1, lap 1, turn 2, and just start from the back, work his way up the grid, and see where that brings him. But he's going to have his work cut out for him, as of course it's a very difficult overtaking track here. Like every street circuit, you got to pick your times very carefully here. But around the final corner comes Nix. He goes up to P6. It's a 137.3 for the Williams driver. So a good lap time here, puts himself well within the top 10. Currently on the third row of the grid, but as qualifying is continuing on, we'll have to see if other drivers are going to improve, or even if Nix is going to improve if he chooses to go for one extra lap here. He's only got 2 minutes in this qualifying session, as do the rest of the drivers. So at this point, if you're not on an out lap right now, trying to get an in lap set, you might be in trouble here, because of course your out lap might take about. I mean, it's definitely not enough time now if you're just leaving the pits. So the likes of Detail, Kaz, who's not having a lap time set. Everybody else is currently on out laps, but you're gonna have to hurry it just a little bit. I think that was Evil Prime who just set a 137.1. He goes up to P4 here in the closing stages of qualifying, so very good lap time here from the AlphaTauri drivers. You can see going slow in turn 2, watching for the traffic, maybe getting that car set up and conserving those tires. Meanwhile, Tiger NASCAR at a purple first sector, coming around the final corner now, and he goes fast. This is a 135.855 for the Red Bull driver. So out qualifies the lap set by Days TG2, and meanwhile for Days TG2, he's on an out lap right now. It's invalidated, but he's gonna have to hurry it up if he wants to get around in time. So is Vishus Queen and Fuzel as well, for that matter, but Fuzel should have loads of time as he's coming around the final corner now. So it's all going to come down to these, essentially these powerhouse drivers here that have been up near the top of the grid here, but 20 seconds left to go. Are they going to have enough time? It's going to be close. Dace, I think, will have enough time. Nix is out of qualifying here, as so is The Monkey Mafia and VTEC as well as Kaz. Around the final corner, Dace is going to make it in time. Here comes Vishus Queen. Is he going to cross? No! A costly mistake here, as Vishus Queen will not be able to improve on his lap time, as qualifying comes to a close right before he can get to the line. So Tiger NASCAR, he's currently, I think, on an in-lap, occupying that provisional pole position, but Days TG2 is running a flying lap right now and looking to improve. Meanwhile, so is Fuzel, and I think Evil Prime, like I mentioned, I don't think he's running a lap. You can see getting out of the way now, letting a Red Bull driver through. I think that was Settlebutt Hole's car, or possibly or Tiger NASCAR's car, I think it was, as the other Red Bull was just hiding on me here. But purple in the second sector went Fuzel. Let's jump back to the Alfa Romeo driver, as we'll stick with him as he's going through sector 3, looking to get that lap time set. Nikki64 jumped up to P5 in the process, knocking Evil Prime down to P6 on that third row of the grid, and Evil Prime crosses the line. I think he should have dove into the pits to conserve those tires. Around the final corner comes Fuzel. Is it going to be enough? It's going to be faster, but not fast enough to leapfrog a position. He's going to remain in P4, but it's all going to come down now to Dace TG2, as now Chief Braids dives into the pits. He wasn't going to improve. Is Dace TG2 going to go fast enough? Is he going to be able to snag that provisional pole? Yes, he will. It's a 135.660 finding the lap time when he needed it the most. It's going to be a Williams starting from pole position here. Dace TG2, he's been all the way. He's been covering the top of the timing tables here in qualifying, and when it mattered most, he got the lap time in, and he will be starting from P1. He will see nobody in front of him on the run down to turn 1 as that 135.660 good enough for pole. So there is that time. Here's the order here with, like I was saying, Dace TG2 on pole. Tiger NASCAR put up a great lap here, a 135.8, but unfortunately it was close, but just not enough for P1. But he will be starting on the front row of the grid, albeit a little bit behind Dace. Still, no traffic ahead of him here, and of course, after the top two, there is a little bit of a separation. Vishus, Guin, and Fuzail on row 2, third and fourth, but all the way down to P4, about a second off pace from the leaders. So I mean, when you're looking at the race here, the likes of the leaders, if they can just get a good start, make it through the first few corners, they might just have enough in the tank to just build enough of a gap. Maybe make this a two-man race between the two of them here, as they can fight each other, and meanwhile try to leave the rest of the grid in their dust behind them. But of course, that's all in theory. In practice, it's so much more difficult, especially in a track like this, especially in the race, because of course in qualifying, you've just got to be perfect for one lap. You just got to nail that one lap when you need it. But here in the race, you're going to have to nail 31 laps, so 30 extra laps, and just in case things weren't difficult enough as it is, you can see it on your screen. I think the Monkey Mafia might have had a little something to do with this, doing a Rain Dancer 3 before the start of the Grand Prix here. It worked out for him, as we've got some rain here to start the race here in Singapore. Not too often we'll see rain, and I think thankfully for a lot of the drivers, it's not as if it's pouring rain here. It looks like it's just a bit of a light rain, but of course we don't have much of a weather report. We don't know if the rain is going to continue or if the rain is going to stop and we're going to see a transition to dries, but it's looking as if it's going to be an intermediate tire race start here, which really does explain why so many drivers just went for the soft tires very quickly here, didn't really bother with those mediums, knowing that it really didn't matter which tire you set your quickest time on, because you're going to start on those intermediate, those green wall rainy tires there to start the race. But of course, the drivers getting their strategy sorted out, ready to go here. The final calls, the final preparation before we get the cue to go start the formation lap, and of course the start of the race here, the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. And I mean, in the meantime, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming into the stream, watching, supporting the drivers, and I'm really excited for what we've got in store for what is going to be a very exciting Singapore Grand Prix that is going to be kicking off in about 25 seconds time and counting here as we got the cue. Now, last thing I do want to mention, and as I was going through the order very quickly after qualifying, I mentioned between third and fourth, the gap really started to grow, and going down, there was essentially a 3-second gap between the leaders and drivers near the end. Now, seeing these wet conditions, it could very well just be that drivers put on a bit more of a wet weather setup, which does compromise on pure pace when you're running dry conditions. Generally, you've got a higher front wing, a slightly different setup there to better tackle the wet conditions, keep that car under control, but it does lose out on that pure pace, like I was mentioning. So that could be a bit of a case to keep an eye out on, especially with these leaders. If we start seeing them struggle, the likes of Dace and Tiger NASCAR, if they're struggling here off the start, that might be exactly it, where they're just using a dry setup, which doesn't translate all that well in these intermediate tire in these wet conditions. But as the drivers are getting their tires warmed up, getting themselves ready to go for the formation lap. I'll take us through the entire order here for the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. So, Dace TG2 on pole. Like we mentioned, Tiger NASCAR going to be charging at him here in P2 in the Red Bull. Vishus Guin rounding out the top three. We'll be starting on the second row of the grid, along with Fuzail in the Alfa Romeo, who is starting in P4. Nicky 64, who made a little bit of contact there, sent back to the grid. He's only disqualified from the formation lap, but will still be starting the race in a P5 on row 3. And he's going to have Evil Prime alongside him in 6th position on that third row. SZ Smith in 7th and Subtle Hole in 8th. They're going to be on the 4th row of the grid with Niru Nix in 9th. Puff Digital rounding out the top 10 here, going to be on the 5th row. P11 goes to Adol Tonian, the best of the rest. Poor man's pole position normally, but not so much here with the tire strategy evened out. Unholy Red Eye in 12th. Detail the Mercedes in 13th. Houdini in the Ferrari in 14th, as that's I think one of the AlphaTauris spun around there just to show how difficult these conditions are. It might have been Puff Digital, but Houdini in 14th. Knuckles rounding out the top 15 here in that Aston Martin. Saffron City in 16th, the second Alpine driver. The Monkey Mafia all the way down in 17th, but these are the race, these are the types of races that the Monkey Mafia lives for, these intermediate tire, these wet weather conditions. He loves these kind of races, so he's going to definitely be in his element here. Chief Braids in P18, and rounding out the grid here on the final row is going to be VTech and Kaz, who did not set a lap time here in qualifying, is starting from back of the grid in P20, but we'll see if he can make that work for him here as he takes his position on the grid, and we are just about set to start for 31 laps around the Singapore Grand Prix. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. Up to 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 red lights. And the lights are off, and we are racing here in Singapore, as it's a very cautious start from a lot of the grid. Oh my goodness, there goes Tiger NASCAR into the wall from what looked to be the Williams of I believe that was Days TG2, getting so much wheel spin off the start of the race, and that very much so compromises Tiger NASCAR way down at the bottom of the grid, and could have some damage there too. But Vishus Queen in P1 as they're heading down Raffles Boulevard with a nice little gap here. Fuzail in 2nd, as we've got some yellow flags further down the grid. Let's see what's going on here as drivers are battling for position, heading down towards turn 3, and that's a Detail going very slow, as I think he really has some damage on that car. Not too sure what happened. Oh, a big moment there. That's Fuzail into the wall of turn 4, a costly mistake there. I mentioned that in qualifying. You gotta be careful on that corner there. Very easily that outside wall comes up so quick, but that was the case there. Will be continuing on his road there, but maybe a little bit of damage in the process. Not ideal. So a bit of a chaotic start from a lot of the drivers as Fuzail is continuing to fall down the order, and we've got a yellow flag, and oh no, that might be Tiger NASCAR, I think, whose race is going from bad to worse. Does get a virtual safety car though for he, Detail, VTech, a lot of these drivers who didn't get the start of the race they were hoping for here. They essentially get a bit of a gift here as they can work their way to the pit stop and not lose as much time there, especially with some wing damage. But a chaotic start here, a little bit of calamity there at the front row of the field as getting off the line. I think some wheel spin, a little bit too much wheel spin on these intermediate tires from Detail, essentially sent that car off to the side, as we've seen, as we've all seen at least once here on those starts in these types of tricky conditions. But unfortunately, that sent that car right into Tiger NASCAR, and Tiger NASCAR had nowhere to go other than the wall. And unfortunately, it's all history from there. Meanwhile, can look like that was Scuttlebutt Hole, I think, taking a speeding in the pit lane penalty. And as we're going back to green flag racing, that's going to be costly. A couple pit stops here from some drivers, getting either tires change or maybe a wing change here a little bit early. I think it might just be a wing change, but okay, so it is still raining, so possibly a wing change for the likes of Scuttlebutt Hole, Unholy Red Eye, Dace, Fuzail, Tiger NASCAR, the latter of the three as expected. Now, yellow flags as drivers leaving the pit lane here, and just like that, we've got a couple gaps here on the field. We've got this lead pack here that is being led by Vishu's Gween. But Vishu's Gween, look at the lead he's got, already a 6-second gap. He came to race here in that Mercedes, and he's feeling really comfortable here so far in these intermediate tire conditions. I do believe he does have a setup ready to go. Meanwhile, Nicky64 is, I wouldn't say parking the bus, but doing a very good job of making that McLaren as big as possible here, as we'll jump on board with them here, looking towards the back, keeping Evil Prime, Niru Nix behind. And I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out here in the meantime to Nicky64, and I'm sure a couple other drivers on the grid here as I try to see them. You'll notice some of the drivers sporting some pink on their helmets. Niru Nix the likes with a little bit of a flashy pink-purple color. Like I said, Nicky64, you saw that there on the car. There's SZ Smith with some keep an eye out for some of the drivers as this race plays on with those pink helmets, showing their support for Breast Cancer Month. You know, gotta show our support there for breast cancer, the survivors, and of course it's for a good cause here. But that's why you're seeing the pink helmets here, and of course save the boobies, as we love to say here. But back to the racing action. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 3, as I think that's VTech that might have brought that out here very briefly. No front wing on that Ferrari. That is going to be a challenge there, but he can make it over to the pit lane. Not too bad for him, but it's going to be an extra wing change and very difficult. But here you're gonna see Niru Nix coming at Evil Prime. I think he thought about going for the overtake here, but just unfortunately ran out of room. And this is a section of the track where it's very difficult to get past. Ooh, nearly a moment into the wall from Niru Nix, as that was a big tank slapper on the exit of that corner. But you can see Evil Prime trying to nurse that Alpha Tauri around the corners. Niru Nix practically pushing him around the corners here, it seems, but just can't quite get on the acceleration enough to overtake Evil Prime down the straights where you need that extra top speed. And that's where Evil Prime's got the advantage. Once again, another prime example of this, where Niru Nix gets right up close in the corners, but Evil Prime just finding the acceleration. There we go once again, as now SZ Smith is starting to close that gap, as he's going to want to get involved in this battle. You can see getting close, but here we go, alongside, going around the outside. Ooh, a little bit of contact there between Niru Nix and Evil Prime, as Evil Prime doing everything he can, trying to keep that Alpha Tauri ahead, leaving only just one car's width for Niru Nix to try to get through. All the while, Vishu's Queen pumping out a fastest lap here of the Grand Prix, and there goes Evil Prime into the pit lane. He might have had a little bit of wing damage there, which was not ideal, because that essentially kept Niru Nix behind, and he's gonna have to close a 5-second gap here to try to close back up to Nicky64, who now finds himself running a lot of clean air with a little bit of a gap to work with here. A little bit of a nice little gap here between P2 and P3. But you can see the field starting to bunch up here behind what is now Niru Nix, with the help of Evil Prime keeping that group bunched together. But Niru Nix is starting to get on the pace just a little bit. Meanwhile, Puff Digital chasing down Adaltonian for P6, for P5, I should say, trying to get into the top 5 in these early stages of the Grand Prix. But similar to Niru Nix on Evil Prime, you gotta really pick and choose your moments if you're Puff Digital, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's not just gonna chuck the car in there in these types of conditions. He's going to be very very technical about it. He's going to really pick and choose his moments and go for it when he sees fit to get the overtake done safely. For that, it takes a lot of patience, and you got to give props to drivers in these situations for having that patience, not trying to force something and create an issue that could cause an incident for themselves, for the other drivers, and something for the stewards to look at. So props to all these drivers showing a lot of patience here, really picking and choosing their window of opportunity. And you can see Saffron City in 8th, also part of that initial group of cars trying to chase down, heading towards trying to chase down Houdini, but of course they're kind of stuck in single file. The dirty air, I think, is affecting these cars a little bit here through the corners, making it very difficult to close up and get that run. Oh no! And a little bit of a tank slapper there from Saffron City. Is it going to be wing damage? He's missing an end plate there, and that could be a little detrimental to his run, as now Chief Braids gets a fantastic run on the exit of the final corner, gets well ahead of Saffron City before turn 1, and that is now the Haas of Chief Braids up into P8 as he's going to try to chase down Houdini. Saffron, meanwhile, I think he's going to try to stick it out, but we'll see for how long, as missing an end plate in conditions like these can be very, very costly. Detail, meanwhile, diving into the pit lane once again. So Detail having such a good qualifying run, but unfortunately the race so far for him not going the way he was hoping for, as that's another pit stop here, as we're only 5 laps into the Grand Prix and already a second pit stop for the Williams not the Williams driver. I believe it's the Alpine driver of Detail. No, it's the Mercedes of Detail. Excuse me, I'm getting my drivers mixed up here, I think, a little bit. So apologies for that. It might just be his first stop. You know what? Let's go take a look. Yes. So it was Detail's first stop. Apologies for that, but you can see here the biggest movers as I put them up on the screen here just to get an idea off the start. So Chief Braids is the biggest mover upwards, moving up 10 positions. Kaz, meanwhile, from starting in P20 up 9 positions up to P11 as he's trying to close up the field, and it shows the beauty of being able to keep clean. But all eyes right now are on Vishu's Queen, who's absolutely run away with this Singapore Grand Prix, having a race to remember, and making it seem like very early on it's going to be his race to lose here, as he's already got an 11.3 second gap, and we're only 6 laps into this Grand Prix. He is looking absolutely comfortable here in these intermediate tire conditions. And oh no, we've got a yellow flag here on circuit, as that looks to be through into turn 2, and I think that's Nicky 64 who maybe lost the rear end of the car. Oh, a little bit of contact there in the process, as there's that McLaren of Nicky trying to get back up to speed. Puff Digital, though, missing the braking zone, going slightly into the back of Adaltonian. Thankfully, that didn't affect too much, and now they're running into Nicky 64. But if we look back, oh no, that's some end plate damage to Nicky's McLaren, and that's going to be a long way to the pit lane to get that change. Very unfortunate for the McLaren driver, who was running so well here in the early stages of this Grand Prix, but unfortunately sometimes it just happens here on a track like Singapore in these types of conditions. You gotta be just mentally on it for the full duration of the race, and that is something that is a lot easier said than done on this track. But here we are, lap 6 out of 31. We're on board with Puff Digital as he's chasing down Adaltonian, going for that P4. A little bit of a tank slapper there. Came relatively close there to running into the wall, meeting a similar fate as so many drivers have already seen so far. But able to keep that car under control was Puff Digital, so can continue the charge here as They're coming through the ever so challenging Sector 3, nearing the under the bridge section here, the notorious under the bridge section. More yellow flags here. I think that's Nikki going slow, trying to get out of the way a little bit as Knuckles now getting ahead, Kaz getting ahead, as I think Nikki well aware of the situation with that wing damage, just trying to do his best to stay out of the way as much as possible so he can just get that front wing change and not affect anybody else's race. Knuckles, though, meanwhile came very close to taking some damage himself, but keeps that car under control as he's going to continue on, and we have a full caution safety car here, and that looked to be for a yellow flag that was brought by detail here, as the Mercedes driver, you can see that there has no front wing on that car, so that's going to be a pit stop there for detail, as he's gonna have to get that changed. And I think just the debris on the track did bring out that safety car. So for a lot of the grid that's essentially had that gap built, this is very, very good for them, as they can essentially reclose up to the leaders and essentially rechange this race. It's fantastic, I think, for Niru Nix, who essentially gets a lot of help being able to close up a 23-second gap to Vishut's Queen. But if you are the leader, if you are Vishut's Queen, you're probably not too happy that this safety car came out, because you had a 24-second gap that is essentially going to be evaporated into nothing. But the good news is, though, if you are Vishut's Queen, or if you're a fan of the Mercedes team, if you're a fan of the driver, is that, well, he's built that gap once. Who's to say he can't do it again? So we'll have to keep an eye out on that once we do get to the safety car restart, which I think is going to be in a couple laps time. But actually, Vishut's Queen is going to take this opportunity to take a pit stop, and he's going to get a fresh set of boots on. So we'll switch over very quickly to Niru Nix, as he is bringing up the rest of the field here. But the question is Niru Nix going to maybe take a pit stop as well, or is he going to continue on his way? It looks like he will just continue on his way, business as usual, and it appears as if the rest of the field is going to be doing the same. I think for Vishut's Queen, he just saw that he noticed he had the gap under the safety car, so he figured, I'm gonna take this to my advantage. But I've got a little bit of a race here, getting to the safety car. But who got the position first? It looks like it is still Vishut's Queen who got P1, although it was a little bit closer than what we might have expected here, as Kaz taking a speeding in the pit lane penalty. Unfortunate for him, as he's going to have to have that added to his time, or he's going to serve that if he does take another pit stop under green flag conditions. But meanwhile, back to that pit stop from Vishut's Queen. That's going to be maybe a little crucial for him here, as he's got essentially a fresh set of tires on compared to everybody else behind him. Where if we switch out of the interval and switch out of the position change and look at the tire choice, everybody else from P2 all the way down to P7, they're still out on that initial set of tires they started the race on. So Vishut's Queen, in other words, has much fresher tires here, as long as he can get enough heat in them, and might be able to use those to his advantage, go a little bit longer, and use those fresher tires to build a gap. But we'll see how this is all going to play out once we do go back to green flag racing. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be at the end of this lap. I think we're going to get one more lap here under safety car to allow the rest of the grid, the likes of Evil Prime, Subtle, then you've got the Chief Braids Unholy Red Eye, and then of course the second group of cars, all being led by Dace TG2, who, he's got a little bit of a gift himself here. Both he and Tiger NASCAR, who, remember, started from P1 and P2 respectively, were Dace TG2 and Tiger NASCAR. And unfortunately, due to an issue off the start from Dace, just getting way too much wheel spin on that car. Unfortunately, bumping into Tiger NASCAR, sending him into the wall and causing some damage to both those cars. And they've been since trying to recover after that lap 1 incident. And like I said, this is going to be maybe a little bit of a gift for them, as it's going to close back up the field. So if they can nail the restart the second time around, they could be in great shape to try to fight through the field, get involved in a couple battles, and still salvage a decent position here. Because there's still, of course, 22 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Tons of racing left here in Singapore. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to want to go anywhere. The best is yet to come here once we do go back to green flag racing. But of course, the queue is starting to get caught up. You can see here with the top two and Vishus Guin leading the charge under the safety car here, as Bert Mylander in that green safety car is taking us through, waiting for the field to catch up. In the meantime, though, I'm just going to take my my coveted quick sip of water, as I always do under these safety cars. So I'll be back in just a few moments, ladies and gentlemen, to take us through what's hopefully going to be the restart here for the Singapore Grand Prix. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back in just a few moments. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I have returned. We are still under safety car, but approaching the end of Sector 3 here. So, there is very much a possibility to go and restart this race, possibly at the end of this lap. But the more we're moving on, the more it looks like that won't be the case. I think we just got to let the likes of maybe Kaz detail to catch up to the rear of the field here. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. So one more lap here around the Singapore circuit here under safety car, and all the while, if the rain just somehow happens to just calm down a little bit, it might help out the drivers getting on a set of slick tires and maybe start to push these a little bit more. But of course, that's assuming the rain does stop. There is also the other option that the rain just continues and or gets stronger, in which case we've got more fun stuff to come. But either way, it's going to be a great race here. But I think very quickly, since we are under safety car here, let's I didn't go through this in qualifying like I normally do. So let's quickly go through this here under the safety car. If I'm looking at the Drivers' Championship here, Neuro Nix is leading the Drivers' Championship, and he finds himself here up in second position. So he's in a great spot here to extend that lead. Already 410 points, could have a little bit more. Right behind Neuro Nix in the Drivers' Championship is Tiger NASCAR, who is down in P14, had a great qualifying, but unfortunately, like I was mentioning, due to that incident at the start, finds himself down in P14. So it's very integral that he really tries to salvage this, still get a decent position to try to limit the damage and limit the gap that Neurnix could possibly build if he can keep that consistency here at this race. Detail rounding out the top three, down in 19th there, so a little bit of a similar situation as Tiger NASCAR. Houdini in 4th, and he finds himself in P6 now, so he very much benefited here with the safety car keeping his nose clean. But safety car is coming in this lap here. Hightower rounding out the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship, with Monkey Mafia right behind, and it does continue down from there. But we'll go to the constructors maybe a little bit later if we do have another safety car a little bit later, because right now we're going back to racing. We're going back to green flag conditions here, as Vishu's Queen letting the safety car just build a little bit of a gap. It will leave relatively quickly here, so not too much of a gap needing to be built. Getting that heat into the tires. He gets to decide when we go around the final corner, and I think he's going now as he crosses the line, and we are back to green flag racing, as it looks to be a very good start from Vishu's Queen going into turn 1. Already a 1 second gap from Nero Nix. Tiger NASCAR, meanwhile, oh no! Tiger NASCAR is out of this Grand Prix, as he had a big moment around the final corner, bringing out a yellow flag, and that is going to be very costly for him. I think maybe he got caught up with Nikki64 possibly, because there's Nikki64 diving into the pit lane, maybe having to get a front wing change, but I'm really not too sure what happened there, but a disappointing end to what was all considered maybe a bit of a disappointing Grand Prix for Tiger NASCAR here as far as the race is concerned. But looking at the racing action, Evil Prime tried to go down the inside of Knuckles, but unfortunately with no DRS, not easy to do here. Meanwhile, Chief Braids and Unholy Red Eye going side by side here as they're approaching the corner. Oh no, a slight little bit of contact. That's the Alpine spun around. He's gonna have to try to get back on track here, and he's got to let some traffic through. He's got a lot of room now, so we can get back on track. We'll keep an eye out on that, but we still have more battles. Chief Braids, oh, and there goes Days TG2 for a little bit of a half spin, as it looks like he might have gotten squeezed out of that corner trying to go along the inside. Unfortunate there, 2 for 2 there on those side-by-side battles here on the restart, showing how difficult it is in these conditions, in these intermediate tire conditions, in these wet weather race that we're seeing right here, right now. But we will be trekking on. It didn't look like there was too much damage for either one of those cars, thankfully. So it's just a little bit of a time loss, but they do get to continue on here. As I'm not too sure why it's showing Nikki64 still in the pits. What's going on? Oh no! And Chief Braids, meanwhile, he misses the braking zone going into that corner under the bridge, and he's trying to get back on track, but has to let traffic through. The likes of Unholy Red Eye, now he can continue on his way, but that's very much so a time loss for the driver here. The Monkey Mafia, meanwhile, chasing down Fuzel. The two teammates now are they might be battling a little bit, but I think it might be in their best interest to try to work together to close that gap rather than battle amongst each other. All the while, we are going bonkers here with my timing tables, as the game just has no idea who's leading this Grand Prix. It doesn't look like it looks like it's just cycling through everybody here. I believe it is still Vishu's Queen who is leading. Chief Braids, though, falling down the order a little bit more, as what is going on here with Unholy Red Eye? He's on the track, in the pits, on the track, in the pits. Now he's back. Oh, Chief Braids too doing a little bit of the same. It looks like it's maybe a little bit of I think it's maybe a bug there with the pit lane exit there. I mean, funky to see, no less, but I don't think it's anything to worry about here and there, or oh my goodness, here and there. Let's roll with it here. But what is going on here? Vishu's Queen sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far at 155 point something, even though he has yet to cross the line. Everything is coming in here at the same time, but leading this Grand Prix is Vishu's Queen. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2 at Turn 4. That looks to be Unholy Red Eye trying to get back on track there in the Alpine. He brought that safety car out. Across the line now goes Vishu's Queen. I think now everything is gonna get sorted out here, as I think everything just went a little bit bonkers with that safety car restart, but now it looks like things are getting themselves corrected. But Vishu's Queen, all the while, doing what he was able to do previously before that safety car, which is build a gap, get out in front and build a gap, I should say. And the gap between himself and Nero Nix is already 6.6 seconds, and it looks to be growing a lot more than it looks to be shrinking. Is that that gap. So, like I was mentioning, Vishudsqueen, he's here to race, ladies and gentlemen. He is here to have a good Singapore Grand Prix. He is looking confident. He's looking comfortable in that car, and it shows with that 7-second lead so far in these early stages. We've got a yellow flag though in Sector 3 through the S. I think that's Nicky64 having a little bit of a moment, making it through the corners. He is able to continue on his way, but a little bit of extra time loss here. All the while on your screen, you've got Puff Digital chasing down Adaltonian as they're coming through the bridge section here before the blind braking zone. A hard left-hander, and that looked to be Houdini trying a little bit of a sneaky move down the inside there, hoping that Puff Digital bites and gives them space. But Puff Digital, I think, saw that coming and completely essentially shut the door. Nothing wrong with that. Just knew that attempt was coming from Houdini, and just said, you ain't getting that like that from me. You gotta try a little bit better than that if you want to get that overtake done. But great defending from Puff Digital there. Meanwhile, you can see Evil Prime is trying to show a little bit of support for his teammate here of Puff Digital. Houdini, meanwhile, Houdini, he's stuck in he's the meat in an AlphaTauri sandwich. But Scuttlebutt Hole now is getting involved here as he makes himself some lettuce or some cheese here in that AlphaTauri sandwich. But of course, Evil Prime diving into the pits. So at this point, it's not so much of a sandwich, more of just a separation between the two drivers now. But that's the case there. But it is an actual race here, not a sandwich making stream. Puff Digital though, meanwhile, is still trying to chase down Adaltonian. He got that gap so close, down to about 0.2 of a second through the corner section here. But very similar to what we've been seeing time and time again. Just drivers are getting close, but just can't seem to get close at the right spots on the track to get some overtakes done. And we're seeing a lot of I wouldn't call it DRS train, but a bit of a slipstream train from a lot of drivers, just using the slipstream, the toe to their advantage, closing up in the corners here, but just can't quite find the exit of the corners with that dirty air to get that extra boost they need, that extra jump to go for the overtake. You really got to bank on a possible mistake from drivers, the likes of which we almost saw Houdini do, and that could have been Scuttlebutt Hole to try to capitalize on that. And actually, he might here. As you can see, he does actually capitalize. Subtle getting ahead of Houdini. So the Red Bull driver up in P6. Meanwhile, the Ferrari of Houdini back down in 7th place as he is going to try to re-overtake Scuttlebutt Hole, I think, once that opportunity comes and is available to him. Not quite here in this third sector, unless a mistake from the driver. But they're looking to be pretty on point so far here in this race, as their leaders are starting lap 15 out of 31 here. Vishudsqueen already, this gap, it was 7 seconds a couple laps ago, up to 10 seconds now. Meanwhile, we've got a yellow flag here, as I think similar to Chief Braids a couple laps ago. Knuckles just nearly overshooting that braking zone. It doesn't look like much, but it is very easy to overbrake, and at that point, you just end up in that no man's land off to Narnia, rather than taking that corner around the bridge. And at that point, it's very difficult to get that car back on track without taking damage or worse. If you do happen to pull that off, it's just a big time loss, all considered there. So costly mistakes there from some drivers, but they're gonna have to try to close up that gap as much as they can. All the while, though, looking at further up the grid, I'm still keeping an eye out on this train that's essentially being led by Adaltonian, and I mean, I gotta hand it to the Aston Martin driver here of Adaltonian. He's doing a great job making that car as big as possible, getting on the power right when he needs to, just in terms of defending and keeping everybody else behind. I mean, you can see the top three, they've got a gap build here. the likes of Vishu's Queen, we've spoken about the gap time and time again. Near Nix and S.Z. Smith, though, they've all got a gap here, but all the while, Adaltonian is essentially the first roadblock here for the likes of Puck Digital. Subtle, even, oh no! Oh, a big accident, though, as Adaltonian runs into the wall. No front wing on that car, and that is going to bring out a full safety car here. Unsurprising, is that almost, I thought that was the end of Adaltonian's race there. I thought that front wheel had popped off that car, and he was done for. But thankfully, it is just the front wing. Does lose out in a couple positions, but all the while we're seeing drivers diving into the pits. But once again, if you're the likes of Vishu's Queen, you might not be too happy about this, because once again, the grid is gonna get bunched up, and once again, he's gonna have to try and build that gap like he's done like he's done already twice now. Near Nix, though, he gets a little bit of second life here in P2, as he once again maybe gets to retry that restart, maybe hope for a little bit of a better outcome to close that gap, maybe go for an early move on Vishu's Queen and try to take the lead and see if maybe he can build a gap himself. S.Z. Smith, we haven't spoken much about S.Z. Smith here so far this race. I mean, I brought him up very briefly talking about the gap to P3, but he's been doing what he has to do, lurking in the shadows, just, you know, driving just business as usual here for the Haas driver, driving the race he has to race. He's running in P3, kept his nose clean, and it's really benefiting him so far, as he's going to be in P3. Maybe he can make a move here with the grid bunching up together. And of course, it is raining after all, so how could we not bring up the Monkey Mafia? He's mentioned time and time again how much he seems to love racing in these types of conditions, when it is wet, when it is challenging, and as he's now up in P4 and in a fantastic spot here. Once we do regroup under safety car to maybe go for an overtaker 3 himself here from P4. We'll see if maybe he can find himself on a podium here, or even more so. But I mean, Vishu's Queen diving into the pits here and putting on another set of tires, and I think that might be his last pit stop. Nero Nix following suit, and I think S.Z. Smith is doing a little bit more of the same. Monkey Mafia, meanwhile, he pit on the first safety car, so and he did have the opportunity to pit one lap ago with the rest of the field, so he's just gonna opt to stay out. And look at this, he's actually gonna leapfrog both S.Z. Smith and Nero Nix, so he finds himself in P2, so the strategy working out great for the Monkey Mafia here, as now all he's going to have to do is time that restart, get a good safety car restart, and maybe he can be the challenger to Vishu's Queen, who's been essentially untouched here from the start of the race up until now. He's led every lap so far, and in a very convincing manner, I should say, has led the laps. But here is essentially, you can see the tire choice here. So those who took our pit stop all went for a fresh set of intermediate tires, which tells me that the rain will not be stopping anytime soon, nor will it be getting worse anytime soon. So it could just be a little bit more of this light rain that we're seeing, keeping the track damp, and just damp enough for those intermediate tires. But as the safety car is going around, you can see the top 3 have caught up. Meanwhile, the rest of the field is catching up sooner rather than later, but a little bit of a train here from the drivers. So I think we're going to have the end of this lap and possibly one more lap under safety car. If we're lucky, the safety car will be coming in at the end of lap 18. But that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm asking, and we'll see if the game shall give it to me and give it to us here, so we can go back to green flag racing sooner rather than later. But as like I mentioned before, I'm just gonna go take a quick sip of water here, ladies and gentlemen, as we are under safety car. The race has been neutralized temporarily, and once the safety car does come in, we will be going back to green flag racing. But I'll be back in just a moment. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and like I said, I will be back soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I have returned from my my little water break there. Thank you so much for watching. It is lap 18 out of 31. If you're just tuning in, we are under safety car here. It's our second full caution safety car of the evening. That was brought out due to a little bit of a moment there from Adaltonian going through sector 3, essentially right around where that number 3 is on the mini map there. Taking that corner just a little bit too hot, nearly ending his race there, but it was just bits and pieces of the front wing just exploding off of that Aston Martin. And to get that debris cleared up, they did need to bring out the safety car, the full caution safety car. Now, as we're coming through very quickly here, hopefully we can go back to green flag racing at the end of this lap, but I'm going to take a quick moment. I went through the Drivers' Championship on the previous safety car, looking at the Constructors' Championship now, though Red Bull Racing leading the charge here with 690 points. Although it's all down to Scuttlebutt Hole now to salvage some points here for the Red Bull team, as Tiger NASCAR had such a great qualifying, but unfortunately his race went the opposite of good. It went from bad to worse to just terrible form there, as he is now he's out of this race. So like I was mentioning, the Red Bull hopes here for today are all on Scuttlebutt Hole's shoulders, and with the likes of a Williams team that is on the charge and an Alpine team that is on the charge, and funny enough, both the Williams and the Alpine, they are tied for points. They both have 636 points. So the Williams, of course, they are Niru Nix and Dace TG2. That is the team there. One in third, one in 14th place. Meanwhile, if I'm looking at the Alpine team, not having the best of race here, Sefron down in 13th, and you can see Unholy Red Eye down in 18th place. So it's looking, at least as of now, that it's a bit of an advantage to the Williams team here at the end of this race, assuming things stay the way they have been between now and the end of the race. Aston Martin, meanwhile, rounds up the top 4, and don't count them out just yet either. They've got 630 points, and so in other words, they're only 6 points behind both the Williams and the Alpine for P2, as they're meanwhile all trying to chase down the Red Bull Racing constructor. But of course the Aston Martin, that is Adaltonian and Knuckles here today on track in those in that Aston Martin, looking to gain those points. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. But like I was mentioning, Knuckles and Adaltonian, they are in the Aston Martin, trying to get those points. A little unfortunate for them that Burt Mylander in that Aston Martin safety car can't snag Constructors' Championship points for the team, as I mean, that would be huge, given as of right now it's Burt Mylander, it's the safety car leading the Grand Prix here. But with any luck, we should be going back to green flag racing at the end of lap 19, and there you have it. It is going to be green flag racing to start lap 20 for what is going to be an 11-lap sprint. to the finish here. So it's going to be good, ladies and gentlemen. What was 20 laps of racing is now going to be condensed down to an 11-lap sprint here. And, of course, that's assuming that we go green to the end. But I think drivers now starting to get a bit more of a hang of the circuit, getting that feel for it. They had time to just take a moment under safety car, but it's time to get back into focus mode. It's time to get back on the game plan as Vichous-Gouin really taking wide lines here, trying to get those tires heated up as much as he can, buying time for the safety car. And here we go, going back to green. It's a good start from Vichous-Gouin, but the Monkey Mafia, meanwhile, not having the best of starts compared to Vichous-Gouin. Niru Nix, though, chasing him down. Is he going to go for it? He thought about going for it here. And oh no, that's Detail out of this race. What happened to Detail here? As I'm trying, oh no, what happened to Detail to knock him out of this Grand Prix? It almost looks like that was on the start-finish straight, just into the wall of the start-finish straight. So maybe coming around the final corner, losing the back end of that car, and unfortunately for Detail, that is the end of his Grand Prix here under the safety car restart. So another one is out of this race under safety car restart. First it was Tiger NASCAR, now it's Detail. So two drivers, the second driver now to DNF out of this race. But back to the race here. The Monkey Mafia hanging on to that second position, but Niru Nix is putting a lot of pressure. But meanwhile, Vichous-Gouin is already got that gap up to 2.7 seconds. So he is really making it a challenge to try to catch. He is very pacey here around this track in these conditions, and showing his pace here, showing that he is pacey even for the best of drivers here in Division 2, the likes of the Monkey Mafia, Niru Nix, those drivers that we're seeing up near the top of the leaderboards week in, week out. And Vichous-Gouin is just dusting them here in this Grand Prix. But oh no, we've got a yellow flag here. What happened here? I think that might be Dace. Yes, that is Dace, who has no front wing as he's trying to get that car back and running here on the track. Not ideal for Dace, as that's going to be a bit of a time loss, and he's going to have to take another pit stop to get that front wing changed. So a little unfortunate for the Williams driver here, as that's going to be a lot of time lost for him with the laps really dwindling down. But meanwhile, the Williams on your screen, Niru Nix came close once again here, thought about going for an overtake down the inside of the Monkey Mafia, but the Monkey Mafia hanging on to that P2 for dear life, it seems, as of right now, as they're heading around through into turn 3. There, very quickly on your screen, went to Vichous-Gouin, disappearing off into the distances. The gap is now 4.6 seconds and growing. Are we going to see a move from Niru Nix? No. Once again, close, but not close enough. And I think, like I was mentioning previously, a lot of drivers really not enjoying the fact that there's no DRS here. That rear wing flap will not be opening. There's no DRS when it is wet weather conditions like this, so you don't get that extra speed boost, that extra burst of speed with that flap opening up, making that car more aerodynamic here in these types of conditions. So unfortunately, you don't get that 10-mile-an-hour advance in the designated zones like this one, like Raffles Boulevard. So you have to rely on pure pace and battery management, ERS management here, to get the overtakes done, as well, of course, the mistakes from drivers. But lap 21 out of 31, you can see Niru Nix still chasing down, buying his time, making what he can work for him here. Meanwhile, you can see Adaltonian chasing down Evil Prime. Evil Prime, though, close to Subtle, close to Fuzail. This whole field is close together, it seems like, here, as they're trying to chase down, going for a bit of an overtake. Vichous-Gouin, another fastest lap for him here, as he's brought that lap time down to a near 154 flat as the fastest lap time. Evil Prime, we saw that very quickly with the onboard, takes a 3-second time penalty, but I want to switch over here because it looked like Niru Nix, I think he went for the overtake, but Monkey Mafia just had that car positioned in a better spot to get the to hang on to his position on the exit of turn 2, but heading down Raphael's Boulevard, are we gonna maybe see him go for it again? Doesn't look like it, as the separation is just enough. Meanwhile, SZ Smith, even more so of a gap, and they had all bunched up there. Going into turn 2 in that very slow section of the track, but it was not meant to be. The overtake was not done. Unfortunately, SZ Smith taking a 3-second time penalty for multiple warning. That's going to be a little bit costly there, as that's going to be 3 seconds added on to his time at the end of the race, and that could bump him down a couple positions here if he's not if he can't build up enough of a gap here. But here we are. This is the race. Looking at Fuzel right now, chasing down Houdini. He's got a gap built to settle. Houdini defending to the inside. Fuzel, meanwhile, is he gonna go the long way around? He thought about it, but just really had nowhere to go to take the long way around. I mean, he could have tried it, but he's gonna end up in the wall. Houdini, though, going very deep in that corner, but Fuzel just not enough speed to capitalize on that mistake, and that could have been a bit of a missed opportunity there for Fuzel, as you saw how deep Houdini went. If Fuzel was just able to get that car in there, that could have been a side-by-side battle, and it could have possibly been an overtake. Oh no, but meanwhile, Subtle, he was right behind Fuzel, but went for a little bit of a spin there, losing control of the car, and now he's going to have to get that car spun around. Oh my goodness! Oh no! And that's very, very unfortunate there, as that is VTech now out of this Grand Prix. Subtle is thankfully still in this Grand Prix, but with some heavy wing damage. We were hoping, or I was hoping, and I'm sure those watching at home, VTech, Subtle, we were all hoping that that the Ferrari was just going to ghost through the Red Bull given the positions on the track, but unfortunately that was not the case, and that was a big accident, and that is the end of the race for VTech, and that will once again, for the third time here this race, bring out a full safety car. And if I'm going to be honest, that one is fairly understandable there, given that there is a Ferrari parked on the track there now, essentially totaled, and you've got to get that Ferrari out of the way here. So it is going to be safety car. We're going to be running maybe another lap or two under the full caution safety car here. We could be going back to green flag racing to start maybe lap 25, lap 26, which will set us up for a glorious 5 to 6 lap sprint to the finish here to end off what's already been a little bit of a chaotic and a very exciting Division 2 championship race here in Singapore at this circuit. But all the while, Vishut's Queen, let's see, is he going to... I don't think he's going to take a pit stop here. No, he's going to be continuing on. That's what I thought. He's taken a couple pit stops, all from the lead of the race, all under safety car. But I think realistically, he must have... he's probably at this point run out of intermediate tires to put on when it comes to fresh intermediate tires. So he's much better off just sticking with what he's got and going to the end of the Grand Prix here with the amount of laps that are left. The Monkey Mafia, I think he's going to be trying to go to the end of the Grand Prix. You can see Nero Nix, very angsty, wants to get ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver there, going through turn 2, nearly side by side there. But I mean, it is also under safety car, so you can overtake all you want, but you're going to have to give that position right back fairly quickly. So better off just, staying patient, but, of course, could be just a little bit of mind games that Nier is trying to play, just letting Monkey Mafia know that, hey, once we do go back to green flag racing, I'm gonna be all over you on this restart, so be prepared, watch out, I am coming at you here, I want that P2, that's my P2, But of course, the Monkey Mafia, a very experienced driver. He's been around the block once or twice, I would say, so I'm sure he's well aware of the tactics that drivers like to use. The mental game is, of course, a bit of a part of racing here. That if you can get in a driver's head, it might force them into mistakes and give them some. Maybe have them make some silly mistakes that normally they wouldn't make, but just because they know you're there, because they're aware, then then they might force it in. But you can see the Monkey Mafia rocking that awesome pink helmet there for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Love to see that. I mentioned that previously on the stream with a couple other drivers repping out those yellow helmets, those pink helmets. My goodness, I don't know what's going on with my colors here today, folks, ladies and gentlemen, but it is definitely the pink helmets, not the yellow helmets. But what is yellow is the flags that are being flown right now on track through the entirety of the track. The yellow flags, the safety cars, full caution safety car right now as we're completing lap 24, going to be starting lap 25. Fuzel, though, he's going to take a pit stop here under this full caution safety car. He's going to fall down the order a little bit. I'm thinking going all the way down to what could be essentially P15. And he's going to have to get back on track. And he's going to have his work cut out for him here as time is winding down here in this Grand Prix to get... to gain some positions, because of course, assuming the safety car does come in at the end of this lap, that's going to leave us with 5 laps of green flag racing. It's truly going to be a sprint to the finish here. So ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to want to go anywhere once we do get this restart going, because it is the best is yet to come here, as the final few laps are always the best few laps here in any Grand Prix, but even more so in what has already been a pretty hectic, pretty chaotic Singapore Grand Prix, all considered, with the weather really playing a factor here for a lot of drivers. We've seen a couple front wing changes. We've seen a couple accidents here, a couple and a half of tank slappers from a lot of drivers just struggling with these conditions, and I think that's going to be multiplied by 2, by 3, by 4 as we go back to green flag racing, with drivers just knowing that the laps are winding down, and you just want to get the best possible outcome here. Now, the other thing I do got to mention very quickly here before we go back to racing is the penalties. With the safety car, the grid is essentially bunched up, and 5 laps or less, let's be honest, that doesn't leave too much time to try to build a gap here. So I'm looking at drivers like Houdini with 8 seconds of time penalties, Adaltonian with 13 seconds of time penalties, Saffron City with 13 seconds of time penalties himself. He is really going to have his work cut out for him, or else he might risk really compromising what even a good drive could bring out for a good result, because they're all going to have these time seconds added on to their finishing time, assuming they don't serve some of them in the pit lane. But at this point, you're much better off just biting the bullet. You just got to build a gap and maybe hope that it's enough to limit the damage, limit the fall when you do cross the line at the end of lap 31 out of 31. But nope, I mean, the safety car did not come in at the end of lap 25 like I was expecting, like I was hoping. So we're going to have one more lap here under full caution safety car here in Singapore. You can see the rain is still falling. The track is looking, I'd say about as bad as it was for the start of the race. Really not much of a dry line being formed here with the rain falling. The drivers are doing a good job of just pushing the water off of the racing line, but of course with the rain falling the way it is, they'll push it out of the way, and then more rain will fall and just cover that racing line all over again. So it is definitely just intermediate tire conditions by the by definition, with no standing water on the track either, no puddles anywhere on track. It's wet, it's damp, and I mean, if you're a driver, not ideal conditions, but of course for us as spectators, it always makes for a fantastic race here, and it's what we've seen so far here today. And honestly, I'm excited to just go back to green flag racing. I wanna get back to the action. I want to get back to some overtakes, get back to some battles here. As much as I love watching the safety car take a turn, I want to see these Formula One cars barrel down the streets of Singapore as quick as they can, taking these laps. And there we go. Safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. So it's going to be lap 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. So truly a 5-lap sprint to the finish here for these drivers. Go figure that with a race like this, a 50% race essentially turns into a 5-lap sprint here with the safety car here. It's a 5-lap sprint, rolling start. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready. It is going to be good. V shoots Gwyn, leading the charge once again for the third time here under safety car. Is he gonna go? I think he's going to pick the same opportunity to go. It's worked for him twice now. Let's see if he's going to get it. Oh, a big moment there. And that was a big spin from oh my goodness, SZ Smith, as he's fallen way down the order. A costly mistake on the restart here. Meanwhile, the Monkey Mafia is still in second, but there goes Nero Nix. The Monkey Mafia going very deep. They're going side by side here. These two drivers into turn 3. The inside line taken by the Alfa Romeo. The Williams on the outside. And it looks like Nero Nix finds the traction. He is able to get ahead of the Monkey Mafia up into P2, but the job is half done here for the Williams driver. He is absolutely going to have to chase down the leader here. But meanwhile, Kaz and Sefron going side by side there. Looked like there was a little bit of contact between, and there goes Sefron losing the back end. Kaz as well coming right into the craziness of this battle. A big brake check here as there's Kaz. I lost track of him here a little bit, and you can see the chaos going through turn 4 there as Knuckles going slow. Oh my goodness, a big moment there from Kaz. I'm not too sure what happened there. Almost looked like a brake failure from the McLaren driver as he goes hard into the wall, bringing out a yellow flag in Sector 2, but I don't think it's going to be anything more than just a yellow flag, as he is now out of the race. Meanwhile, Evil Prime chasing down, or he was chasing down the, there he is, chasing down Houdini. Nearly, they made contact there, a bit of a tank slapper there. And like I was saying, you can see the desperation from drivers going for these moves, trying to get these overtakes done as best as they can. Is Evil Prime maybe going to try to go for it here? I think he thought about it for half a second, but thought much better of it to not try to force a move in that corner of all corners. Just set yourself up here for the line, for the exit of the final corner, and get the run into turn 1. That's what you got to do here on a track like this. And it looked like that's what Evil Prime thought about doing, but just couldn't quite pull it off. It looks like Houdini did that a little bit better, as he's able to close up the Puff Digital, just not enough to get the overtake done. Meanwhile, at the front, V shoots Gwyn already a 3.5 second gap. We've seen this before, and we're seeing it again here. Nero Nix, though, in second as the Monkey Mafia. I think the tire wear from trying to go a little bit longer is starting to be felt a little bit here, as Puff Digital is down in 4th, but there you can see the group behind him here. Now, for the likes of Houdini, it's very important, very crucial to his race that he gets by Puff Digital, because he absolutely needs to build a gap. He's got 8 seconds of time penalties, and that's really going to send him down the grid order here if he's not careful. But he's stuck in this AlphaTauri sandwich. We've seen it before. Houdini being the meat in the AlphaTauri sandwich, with the AlphaTauris being the buns here, but he's going to have to try to break out of that. Meanwhile, Evil Prime, he's so close, right up on the back of Houdini, trying to go for the move, but Adaltonian, meanwhile, I think he wanted to find the power, but just had a bit of a tank slapper on the exit of that corner, was not able to get at Evil Prime. And I think for Houdini, that might be what he's hoping for here. Maybe a driver behind can start battling Evil Prime, give him a little bit of breathing room here to focus on the driver ahead, but doesn't appear to be the case, as you can see so close now. Comes Evil Prime, still on the back of Houdini, but just cannot get this overtake done. But this is such a good battle here. It's a bit of a war of attrition here between the Ferrari and the AlphaTauri here. But coming around the final corner, I think he's going to get a much better run as Evil Prime this time around will jump on board. Is it going to be enough? No. Houdini just has a little bit more straight line speed going into turn 1. Closing the gap into turn 2, but at that point it's too little too late. He might need to find that exit. Get the power going down Raffles Boulevard here. This is going to be the best opportunity. Use some overtake. Go for it here. It's lap 29 out of 31. They're coming down to the wire with just about 2.5 laps to go here. Knuckles, meanwhile, getting ahead of Saffron City as they're having a little bit of a drag race here. Saffron gonna go at it? No. I thought he was gonna try to stick his nose down the inside there to get that position back, but not quite the case. Gets a little bit of a tank slapper. Meanwhile, a yellow flag is what happened here. Chief Braids very, very deep, missing the braking zone into turn 3. That's gonna be very costly here with so little time left. Subtle but Hole has no front wing. It looks like they might have gotten caught up with one another here, and that that's not good for either one of those two drivers, as that's a huge time loss and a very crucial point of this race here with 2.5 laps to go in this Singapore Grand Prix. But looking at the leaders, the top 3, not much has changed. The gaps are starting to grow now as Vishu's Queen building that gap once again, and near Nix, now that he got ahead of the Monkey Mafia, he's able to build that 3-second gap here. The Monkey Mafia just sitting comfortably in a P3, in a podium position, but behind them, this is where all the action is. Puff Digital holding up the field just a little bit in the best possible way, keeping that Ferrari behind. And once again, as they come around the final corner, heading down towards turn 1, is this going to be when Evil Prime goes for it? Once again, just can't find the pace down the start finish straight into turn 1 as they're starting the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, lap 30 out of 31. Meanwhile, Fuzel trying to pass Saffron City. They're going for an overtake. They're having a battle. There's contact there. Ooh, that was Fuzel getting a little bit of a moment there with the contact. Daze TG2 gets ahead with that thanks to that mistake with the contact there. So Fuzel down to 13 as I was trying to go for the overtake. Definitely room was left there on the inside, but I think it's just these difficult conditions starting to take their toll. Saffron, no, not out of the woods yet. He's going to have to try to defend Daze. Daze came close going into turn 3, but just did not quite have enough pace to get it done. Coming through turn 4, at this point, it's a little bit of not much of an overtaking opportunity up until that next back straight here that we're gonna see them go down just now, but it's a very short back straight. Are we gonna see a desperation move here? No, they're gonna remain single file. Are these 3 cars really going at it though? But you can see now trying to get that nose in there was some Dace on Saffron, but you gotta be patient because Fuzel, he's gonna come right back at you if you're not careful. But here we go, coming down the back straight. It is going to be a little bit of a break in the action here. Let's quickly switch back to this battle here between Houdini and Evil Prime as they're coming through Sector 3. It's close between these drivers, but as Vishu's Queen crosses the line to start his final lap of the Grand Prix, the rest of the field follows suit. The time for the overtakes are now if you're ever going to get them done. You gotta get the overtakes done. here on this lap, or forever hold your position here. It's the final lap of the Singapore Grand Prix, and you can already see here coming around the final corner now to start their final lap. Here comes Dace. He's going to go for it down the inside. The room is left by Saffron, but just had to get on the brakes a little bit earlier. Take the corner slower, but look at that. Beautiful from Dace, trying to sneak in. Oh, no. No, not the Cody's hook. The Cody's hook, unfortunately, got the best of Dace, and he is out of this Grand Prix on the final lap here in Singapore. Very unfortunate there, but it's that well-known Codemasters, just the wheels just get caught in the side pod. They get hooked together, so to say, and at that point you just gotta hope for the best. But for Dace, it was a good attempt, a solid attempt. I don't blame him for going for it, but unfortunately it did not work out here, as it's a very difficult pill to swallow. 16th place for Dace TG2. But back to the action here. Houdini, Evil Prime, they're still having their battle of their own here. I think Evil Prime knows that he's got this position on penalties, so he just has to remain clean. Houdini, though, I think he's just trying to do the best he can to keep that car in one piece, limit the damage. But you know Houdini's going to fall down the order here, and that's not going to be beneficial. All the while, though, we have a victor. It's V-Shoots Gween who takes the win here at the Singapore Grand Prix. Niru Nix crosses the line in second place, and the Monkey Mafia pulls out a podium here. Fantastic drive there, and there you see the grid falling down. Houdini really falling down the order here, as the rest of this train all crossing the line here. He settles in P8. Adaltonian in 9th. Knuckles crossing the line here for P10. Meanwhile, Fuzail in 11th, and I think for Saffron, he's gonna fall down a position, probably down to P13, with Chief Braids crossing the line now here. But then it's all down to Scuttlebutt Hole and SZ Smith for the essentially for the wooden spoon position, so to say. Settle in 14th, SZ Smith in 15th. Not the ideal race for those drivers here, as maybe not the finishing positions they were hoping for. But when you're looking at the leaders here, I mean, V-Shoots Gween, textbook, absolute textbook race from the Mercedes driver here. He came in and just dominated. It was a fantastic drive. I can't say that enough. I mean, what was it? Three or four safety cars that we had, 3 or 4 gaps that were just evaporated like that. But V-Shoots Gween saying, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'll take my gap away. I'll just make another one here. And that's exactly what he did time and time again. And I mean, definitely a race to remember there, with that selfie, with the video. Congratulations here to the Mercedes driver, and I mean to Niru Nix, to the Monkey Mafia. A fantastic race from the both of them. Definitely a well-earned podium from all of the drivers here. You saw the top two, or P2 and P3, the Monkey Mafia and Niru Nix. They battled through so much of this race here after those safety car restarts, but at the end of the day, it was Niru Nix who got the better of the Monkey Mafia, ending up in second. Monkey Mafia, though, oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that. From P17 up to a podium. My goodness, what a drive from the Monkey Mafia. I just noticed that right there. That's definitely a driver of the day, driver of the week performance there from the Monkey Mafia. We were mentioning he loves these wet weather conditions, and that right there is a textbook example of what the Monkey Mafia can do in these types of conditions. Puff Digital in 4th, Unholy Red Eye rounding out the top 5, Nikki 64 in 6th, Evil Prime in 7th, Houdini in 8th, Adaltonian in 9th, and Knuckles rounding out the top 10. Fuzail, Chief Braids, Saffron City, Scuttlebutt Hole, SZ Smith rounding out the top 15. Then, of course, the Dace, TG2, Kaz, VTEC, Detail, Tiger NASCAR, not having the race they were hoping for here with those with the DNFs. A little unfortunate for them, but of course Singapore is a track. It's got teeth, but definitely opportunity to rebound here once we go back to racing next week, of course. And looking at the schedule next week, it's gonna be a good one. We move to the UK. We move to England. We move over to Silverstone. It is going to be the British Grand Prix, and that is always an absolute banger and a half of a race, so definitely not going to want to miss that one, folks. But for the stream here today, it is all I've got for you here today, folks. I mean, it was a great race at Singapore. Congratulations to the podium. Fantastic here. I mean, fantastic there. Looking here at some the first Midwest F1 Division 2 podium for the Monkey Mafia. So just a little special shout out for that, as Near Nix also gets to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship. But like I mentioned, that's going to be it here today, folks, for the race. Make sure to tune in next week when we hit to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. It is going to be a good one. You're not going to want to miss that. But until then, on behalf of myself and everybody here at Midwest Formula 1, I do want to say thank you so much for watching, and have yourselves a fantastic evening.